She had always loved music more than anything else in her life. Even as a young child, she would hum tunes she remembered from the radio or tap rhythms on the table. Her parents were ordinary people with little money and even less understanding of what it took to become a musician. But they never stopped her. They could not afford music lessons or new instruments, but she found ways. She saved coins from odd jobs, helped neighbors with chores, and even found old sheet music at secondhand stores. Her determination was clear to anyone who noticed, and her love for music seemed to grow stronger every day. By the time she was in her teens, she had taught herself to play several songs on a worn, slightly broken piano that had belonged to her grandmother. Some keys stuck, some notes were off, but she loved that piano like it was brand new. Every evening after school, she would go to the corner where the piano sat and practice quietly. Hours would pass as she played piece after piece. Sometimes her fingers hurt, sometimes her eyes were heavy with fatigue, but she never gave up. The notes she played were not always perfect, but they carried something more than skill. They carried feeling, emotion, a story of her life. At school, her peers did not understand her. They played sports, hung out in groups, or went to parties, while she spent most of her time alone with her piano. Invitations came, but she often said no, choosing music instead. Sometimes she felt lonely, as if she was speaking a language nobody else understood. Still, she never complained. She found freedom in music, a world that belonged only to her, where she could be herself. The school did not have strong support for music. There were only a few classes, and talented students were rarely recognized. She tried to join the music club, but the members were skeptical. They had studied music for years and thought someone self-taught could never match their skills. She was different, yes, but she knew she had something important: passion and persistence. She believed effort could overcome lack of formal training. Every weekend, she went to the local library to borrow books and sheet music. She learned new songs by reading and listening, practicing until she could play them perfectly. Mistakes happened, but she did not see them as failures. They were lessons. Each wrong note taught her more than applause ever could. Slowly, she became better, not just technically, but in understanding how music could express emotion. One day she heard about a citywide music competition. It was a prestigious event with talented participants, and winners would get recognition from top music schools. Her heart raced. This could be her chance, but performing in front of judges and a large audience terrified her. Everyone would be watching, judging, and maybe dismissing her. But she reminded herself that years of quiet practice had prepared her for this moment. She had learned patience and resilience. And now it was time to show the world what she could do. She practiced relentlessly, often late into the night. She focused on one particular piece that resonated deeply with her, a composition that told a story of struggle and hope. As she practiced, she imagined the stage, the audience, the lights, and the judges. Her fingers moved across the keys with more confidence each day. The music was no longer just notes. It became a way to express her feelings, her journey, her dreams. The day of the competition arrived. She carried herself with nervous energy, walking into a large hall filled with competitors and spectators. Musicians carried polished instruments and wore neat outfits. Some looked at her and whispered. She could feel the doubt in the air. The judges seemed stern, their eyes cold, their expressions hard to read. She felt small, like she did not belong. Yet she reminded herself that skill and heart mattered more than appearances. Backstage, she waited, trying to calm herself. Her hands were clammy and her heart pounded. She told herself to focus, to breathe, and to let the music speak. She watched others perform, some playing fast, complex pieces flawlessly. She admired them, but she did not envy them. Her strength was in something different: feeling, emotion, expression. She knew that if she played from the heart, her music would be noticed. Finally, her name was called. She walked to the stage, heart racing, palms sweaty. The audience looked at her, some curious, some doubtful. She sat at the piano, adjusted the bench, and took a deep breath. For a moment, the room disappeared. There were no whispers, no judging, eyes just her and the piano. she pressed the first key. The note was simple, yet full of depth. The audience shifted, leaning forward slightly, sensing that something unexpected was happening. She continued, each note carefully chosen, each pause intentional. Her fingers danced across the keys, and the music flowed from her as naturally as breathing. The room seemed to hold its breath, listening to her story told through sound as she played. Whispers of surprise began among the audience and other competitors. The judges, usually reserved, leaned forward, their pens resting in stillness. Her music had captured the attention of everyone, breaking through the skepticism that had filled the room. For the first time, she realized that her years of effort, solitude, and persistence had led to this moment of recognition. When she finished, there was a pause, a silence that seemed endless. Then, slowly, the applause began. It started cautiously, but quickly grew into a wave of appreciation. People were moved, some with tears in their eyes. She had not expected such a response. Rising from the piano, she bowed, hands still trembling. In that moment, she felt a mix of relief, pride, and wonder. She had been heard. Her dedication, her heart, her music, all of it had spoken louder than anyone had expected. Leaving the stage, she felt lighter, happier, and more confident than ever before. The competition was not just an event, it was a turning point. It proved that, even without wealth, formal training, or approval from others, passion and persistence could create extraordinary results. That day she learned that talent cannot remain hidden forever. One note, played with honesty and heart, had changed everything. Her music had spoken, and the world had listened. After the applause of her first performance faded, she felt a strange mixture of relief and anticipation. She knew that the competition was far from over, and that this was just the beginning. The hall was enormous, filled with hundreds of competitors, spectators, family members, and judges. Everyone had expectations, but she had learned not to focus on them. She reminded herself to concentrate on her own music, on the story she wanted to tell with each note. Backstage, she could hear other competitors tuning their instruments, warming up, and practicing scales. Their confidence was palpable, and some cast curious glances her way. She felt a moment of doubt creeping in, but she quickly pushed it aside. She had been preparing for this moment for years, practicing alone, learning the language of music in her own way. No amount of nerves or intimidation could erase that preparation. The competition was structured in rounds. The first round had been about making an impression, showing that she belonged. The next rounds would test her endurance, versatility, and ability to connect with the audience. She realized she had to perform pieces she had never played in front of others, pieces that required technical skill and emotional depth. The pressure was immense, but she also felt a spark of excitement. She liked challenges. They made her feel alive. Her family had come to support her, though they were nervous themselves. Her mother whispered words of encouragement, trying to calm her, while her father simply nodded, proud beyond words. They understood that this opportunity meant more than just a prize. It was validation for all the small sacrifices, the hours spent practicing instead of playing outside, the money saved for old sheet music. And the quiet nights alone with the piano, in the waiting area, she observed her fellow competitors. Some were older, more experienced, and dressed in polished attire. Others had instructors by their side whispering last-minute advice. She noticed the confidence in their posture, the way they carried their instruments like extensions of themselves. She felt different, less polished, less formally trained, but she reminded herself that her strength lay elsewhere. Her music came from her heart, not just her fingers. That authenticity had always touched people before, and it would again, when her turn for the next round arrived. She walked to the stage slowly, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. The hall seemed even larger than before. The lights were bright, and the audience was waiting expectantly. Some faces looked skeptical, others curious. She felt the weight of their gaze, but chose to focus inward. She reminded herself that music was her language. This was her moment to speak. The first few notes of her new piece were delicate, almost tentative. She allowed herself to feel the music as she played, letting each note resonate with the story she wanted to tell. The composition required careful control, a balance of speed and emotion. Her fingers moved with precision, her heart guiding their rhythm. As she continued, her confidence grew. The audience, initially silent and critical, began to lean in, drawn by the depth and sincerity of her performance. She noticed the judges taking notes. But unlike before, their expressions were harder to read. Some were nodding slightly, some watching intently, but none showed overt emotion. She realized that this round was not about immediate applause, but about proving her consistency, her ability to sustain a high level of performance under pressure. She focused even more, blocking out distractions. Letting the music flow naturally from her soul, the piece she had chosen told a story of struggle, hope, and resilience, the very journey she had lived herself. Each crescendo, each delicate pause, conveyed the emotions she had felt over the years. She played with intention, with care, ensuring that the audience could feel every rise and fall of the melody. Her eyes occasionally closed, not from nerves, but to immerse herself fully in the music. She could feel the audience responding, though silently, as if they were holding their breath along with her. As she reached the final notes, her fingers moved faster, yet remained precise. The hall seemed to vibrate with the intensity of her performance. She felt a connection with everyone listening, as if the music had built an invisible bridge between her heart and theirs. When the last note lingered in the air, there was a moment of profound silence. Then slowly, applause began to build, growing into a warm, appreciative roar. She smiled, feeling a surge of pride and relief. She had done it. She had shared her music in a way that touched people, that made them listen. Really listen. Walking off the stage, she felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. Backstage, competitors whispered among themselves, some clearly impressed by her skill. The respect she had earned was quiet but tangible. She knew the judges were evaluating her closely, but even without their comments, she could feel she had made an impact. The music had spoken for her, and it had been heard. In the hours that followed, the competition continued. She watched other performers, learned from their strengths, and remained focused on her own preparation. She practiced lightly between rounds, keeping her mind sharp and her fingers agile. She realized that the journey was as important as the result, that each performance was a chance to grow, to challenge herself, and to connect with the audience. Throughout the day, she noticed subtle shifts in how people treated her. Some competitors, who had once been dismissive, now offered nods of acknowledgement. Members of the audience, who had seemed indifferent before, now watched her with interest. Even the judges, still serious, had moments of visible approval. She felt a quiet sense of satisfaction, knowing that she was changing perceptions not through words, but through the music she created. By the end of the day, she was exhausted but fulfilled. She had faced her fears, performed under pressure, and continued to prove her abilities. She reflected on how far she had come from the little girl practicing on a worn piano in a quiet corner, to standing on a stage in front of hundreds of people, holding their attention with her music. It was a powerful reminder that dedication, passion, and resilience could overcome any obstacle. As she left the competition hall, her heart was full. She knew there were more challenges ahead, more rounds to play, and more opportunities to grow. But in that moment, she allowed herself to feel proud. She had not just performed, she had communicated, connected, and inspired. The journey was ongoing, but she had taken a significant step forward, proving that even when everyone expected doubt or failure, dedication and heart could create something unforgettable. The day of the final round arrived, and the hall was buzzing with energy. She could feel the tension as she walked through the corridors backstage. Every competitor had prepared meticulously, and the air was thick with anticipation. Some performers looked calm and composed, while others paced nervously. She felt her own nerves, of course, but she also felt something stronger: determination. She had come too far to let fear control her. Her journey had been long, filled with quiet practice, failures, and moments of doubt. Now, it was time to show what all those hours of dedication had created. She glanced around at the other participants. Many were highly skilled and had years of formal training. They carried themselves with confidence, and their eyes showed readiness for the stage. She could have been intimidated, but she reminded herself that her strength lay elsewhere. She had something unique that could not be taught: an ability to play from the heart. She had learned to express emotion through music in a way that moved people, and she trusted that ability now more than ever. Backstage, the organizer called out names, and one by one, performers walked on stage. She watched carefully, noting the techniques, the posture, and the way each musician connected with their instrument. Some performances were flawless technically, but lacked soul. Others were emotional, but had mistakes. She realized that the judges were looking for both the perfect blend of skill and feeling. That was her focus now. She would not just play notes. She would tell a story with every key she pressed. When her name was announced, she felt a mixture of excitement and calm determination. She walked onto the stage, feeling the bright lights warm her face and the audience staring intently. She carried herself steadily, though her heart was racing. This was her moment to shine, to prove to herself and everyone watching that all the years of effort were not in vain. The hall was silent as she approached the piano. She could feel every eye on her, every whisper of doubt waiting to be silenced by her performance. She sat down, adjusted her posture, and took a deep breath. For a moment, the world faded. There was no audience, no competitors, no judges, only her and the piano. She let her fingers hover above the keys, feeling the weight of the moment. She pressed the first note, and it resonated through the hall, simple yet powerful. It was a note filled with confidence, emotion, and an unspoken message. She was ready. As she continued, the music grew. Each note built upon the last, creating a melody that drew the listeners in. She played with precision, but more importantly, with feeling. The audience could sense her connection to the music, her genuine expression of her journey. She allowed herself to feel every emotion, fear, hope, determination, and let it flow through her fingers. The music told her story. The quiet nights of practice, the struggles, the doubts, the small victories that had brought her here. The room fell into complete silence. As if everyone had been transported into her world through the sound of the piano, the judges, usually stern and reserved, leaned forward slightly, listening intently. She noticed some competitors whispering to each other, amazed at how deeply her music conveyed emotion. The notes seemed to float in the air, touching everyone present in a way that words could never achieve. As she reached the climax of the piece, her fingers moved with increasing speed and control, executing difficult passages with grace. Each chord carried weight, each pause was intentional, and each note told part of her story. The audience was captivated, some leaning forward, others closing their eyes, completely absorbed in the music. She could feel the energy in the room shift from skepticism to awe. For the first time, she sensed that everyone there truly understood what she was capable of. Her performance reached its conclusion, and she held the final note longer than usual, letting it resonate and linger. The silence that followed was profound. Then slowly, the applause began. It was hesitant at first, as if people were testing the moment, but it quickly grew into a powerful wave of appreciation. The sound filled the hall, echoing off the walls, and she allowed herself a small smile, feeling a rush of pride and relief. The judges nodded in approval, making notes and exchanging glances. She knew they had recognized her skill, her emotional depth, and her unique voice. Competitors approached her backstage, offering words of respect and admiration. She felt a sense of belonging, a confirmation that she had earned her place among them not just through talent, but through persistence, dedication, and authenticity. Walking off the stage, she felt her legs weak with exhaustion, but her heart light with satisfaction. She reflected on her journey, how she had started with a worn-out piano at home, practicing alone, unnoticed and doubted by many. She remembered the countless hours of effort, the mistakes, and the lessons learned. Every tear, every aching finger, every moment of solitude had led her to this stage, to this recognition. As the final round progressed, she watched other performers and learned from them. She realized that the competition was not only about winning, but also about growth. connection, and understanding the power of music. Each piece played by others taught her something new, inspired her, and strengthened her resolve. She felt a quiet confidence, knowing that no matter the outcome, she had already accomplished something remarkable. She had captured the attention and hearts of those listening. The day ended with a mixture of relief and excitement. She had performed multiple pieces under intense pressure, maintained her focus, and shared her story through music. Backstage, she was approached by some judges who praised her ability to convey emotion and tell a story through her playing. Their words were encouraging, but the most important recognition came from within. She knew she had given her best, and that was a victory in itself. As she left the hall, she took a deep breath of the cool evening air, feeling the weight of the day lift from her shoulders. She looked back at the building, the stage, the piano, and the audience, and felt grateful. Grateful for the journey, for the lessons, for the music that had shaped her. She understood that every challenge, every doubt, and every quiet moment of practice had prepared her for this day. She had proven to herself and to the world that dedication, heart, and authenticity could create something extraordinary that night. As she rested and reflected, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. There were more performances ahead, more opportunities to grow, and more moments to connect with others through her music. She knew that her path would not always be easy, but she had learned that fear and doubt could be transformed into strength and beauty. When approached with courage and determination, her music was no longer just a personal passion, it was a bridge, a language that could reach others, inspire them, and leave a lasting impact. After the final round of performances, the hall was buzzing with energy. Everyone was talking about the talent they had witnessed, the pieces they had heard, and the emotions that had been stirred. She sat quietly in the corner, exhausted but elated. Her heart still raced, and her fingers tingled from the intensity of the performance. It was a moment she would never forget, a day that marked the turning point in her life. The applause, the silent awe of the audience. The recognition from the judges, it all felt surreal. She watched as other performers congratulated each other, their faces a mix of relief and pride. Some competitors who had previously seemed confident and unapproachable now looked at her with a new sense of respect. The whispers she had once heard backstage, filled with doubt and skepticism, were replaced with admiration. It was a subtle shift, but she noticed it. For the first time, she felt fully accepted in a space that had seemed intimidating just hours before. Her parents found her in the corner, their eyes shining with pride. They did not need to say much. Their embrace, their quiet smiles, spoke volumes. They had always supported her quietly, believing in her talent, even when others did not. Now they could share in the joy of her accomplishment, knowing that all the sacrifices and small efforts had led to this moment. Their pride and love felt like a warm shield against the exhaustion that clung to her as the judges prepared to announce the final results. The atmosphere became tense again. The audience leaned forward in anticipation, whispering among themselves. She felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She had performed with all her heart, and while she hoped for recognition, she reminded herself that the journey itself had been an achievement. The courage to step on stage, to share her story through music, had already proven her strength. When her name was called among the top performers, her heart leapt. The recognition was not just for her skill, but for her ability to convey emotion, to connect with the audience, and to tell a story through her music. The judges praised her dedication, her unique interpretation, and the depth of feeling she brought to each piece. Their words were encouraging, but the most powerful acknowledgement came from the audience. People clapped, cheered, and some even stood in admiration. The room had been moved by her performance, and that realization filled her with an indescribable joy. After the awards ceremony, she was approached by several music teachers and mentors who wanted to guide her, offer advice, and provide opportunities for further growth. They saw potential in her that went beyond technical skill. They recognized her heart, her passion, and her ability to connect with people through music. This recognition opened doors that she had only dreamed of, opportunities that could shape her future in ways she had never imagined. Back in the quiet of the evening, she reflected on everything that had happened, the applause, the recognition, the respect she had earned, it all felt like a dream. She thought about the long hours of practice in her small room, the worn-out piano, the moments of doubt and loneliness, and how all of it had led to this day. She realized that every mistake, every struggle, had contributed to her growth. Her understanding of music and her ability to touch people's hearts. The impact of her performance lingered long after the competition ended. Friends and strangers alike spoke of the way she had played, how a single note had captured the room, and how her music had conveyed something profound. She began to understand that music was not just about playing the right notes or mastering technique. It was about expressing truth, sharing emotions, and creating a connection with those who listened. Her performance had done that, and it had left an impression that would be remembered in the days that followed. She received invitations to perform at local events, schools, and community centers. Each opportunity allowed her to continue sharing her music, to inspire others, and to grow as a performer. She felt a sense of responsibility. Knowing that her journey could motivate others who doubted themselves or lacked formal training, she had proven that dedication, heart, and persistence could overcome obstacles and expectations. She also took time to reflect on her own growth. She realized that the competition had taught her more than any practice session or lesson could. It had taught her resilience, courage, and the importance of believing in herself. She had learned to embrace fear, to transform it into energy, and to use it to fuel her performance. Most importantly, she had discovered the power of music as a language of emotion, capable of touching hearts and inspiring change. Even as new challenges awaited, she felt ready. She knew that the journey of a musician was ongoing, filled with practice, performances, and constant learning. But she also knew that she had already achieved something remarkable. She had faced doubt, fear, and skepticism. And she had emerged not only as a skilled musician, but as a storyteller, an artist capable of connecting deeply with her audience. That night, as she returned home and sat at her piano once more, she played quietly, savoring the music and the journey that had brought her here. Each note was a reminder of her dedication, her passion, and the moments that had shaped her. She felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that her music could inspire, move, and resonate. And in that quiet, intimate moment, she realized that the journey was far from over. There were still notes to play, stories to tell, and hearts to touch, but she was ready, stronger, and more confident than ever, prepared to continue sharing her gift with the world. The days following the competition were filled with a whirlwind of emotions. She woke each morning with a sense of excitement she had never known before. The applause, the recognition, the admiration, it all seemed like a dream at first. But as each day passed, it became clear that it was real. People she had never met reached out to her, inviting her to perform at events, schools, and music gatherings. Teachers and mentors offered guidance and encouragement. Seeing in her the raw talent and dedication that had always driven her, it was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. Her parents watched her with quiet pride. They had supported her in small, unassuming ways throughout her life, and now they could see the results of that support in a visible, undeniable way. Her mother would sometimes shake her head in disbelief, whispering how proud she was, while her father, usually reserved, would simply smile, his eyes filled with warmth. They never expected her to reach this level so soon, but they had always known she had something special. Their faith in her had never wavered. It felt like the world was beginning to notice too. Every day brought new opportunities, but she approached each one with the same focus she had learned during years of practice. She remembered the long hours at the piano, the quiet nights alone, the moments when she questioned whether she could continue. Those memories were now sources of strength, reminding her of how far she had come. She realized that talent alone was not enough. Persistence, patience, and passion had carried her this far, and it was those qualities that would help her continue to grow and succeed. She was invited to perform at a series of local concerts. Each performance felt different, more personal, and she discovered a deeper connection with her audience every time she played. People listened not just to the music, but to the story behind it, and she began to understand the true power of her gift. She saw faces light up with emotion, heard the sighs, the gasps, the quiet murmurs of appreciation. Every reaction reminded her why she had dedicated her life to music. It was not about fame or accolades. It was about touching hearts, inspiring others, sharing a part of herself. The recognition she received did not come without challenges. Some people doubted her, questioning how someone without formal training could achieve such results. Competitors who had been highly ranked expressed surprise, sometimes skepticism. But she had learned to embrace such doubt and transform it into motivation. Instead of letting it discourage her, she allowed it to strengthen her resolve. Every note she played became a statement, a quiet defiance of the limits others tried to place upon her. She also took time to mentor younger musicians, those who shared her passion but lacked resources or guidance. She remembered her own struggles, the moments of loneliness, and the difficulty of learning without formal support. Helping others gave her a sense of purpose beyond her own performances. She realized that her journey was not only about personal achievement, but also about inspiring others to believe in themselves. Music had given her a voice, and now she could help others find theirs. As her performances continued, her confidence grew. She experimented with different compositions, exploring new techniques and expressing deeper emotions. The piano became not just an instrument, but an extension of herself, a way to communicate with the world without words. She learned that music could convey feelings that language could not capture: the joys, the sorrows, the hope, the struggles. Each audience she performed for was an opportunity to share that language, to create a moment of connection that transcended barriers. Her experiences began to shape her as a person as well as a musician. She became more patient, more empathetic, and more aware of the power of dedication and resilience. She understood that success was not a destination but a journey, filled with challenges, learning, and growth. She also learned to balance her passion with other aspects of life, understanding that true fulfillment came from harmony, not just achievement. In the months that followed, she received invitations to larger venues and more prestigious events. She traveled to new cities, meeting people from different backgrounds, each experience enriching her understanding of music and its impact. She realized that her journey had started with a single note, a simple expression of her inner world, and now it had grown into something much larger, a path that could inspire, connect, and leave a lasting impression. Through it all, she remained humble and grounded. She never forgot the worn piano at home, the long nights of practice, and the doubt she had faced from others. Those memories reminded her of where she came from and the effort it had taken to reach her current place. They were a constant source of motivation, ensuring that she never took her talent or opportunities for granted. Every note she played carried the weight of her journey, the story of perseverance, and the promise of more to come. She began to see the true value of her experiences. It was not just about winning competitions or receiving applause, but about growth, connection, and the ability to touch lives. Every performance was a conversation, a way to express what words could not. She realized that her music had the power to inspire courage, hope, and joy in others, and that understanding brought her a deep sense of fulfillment. Looking back, she understood that the moment that had changed everything, the one note that silenced the entire room, was more than a single event. It was the culmination of years of dedication, passion, and belief in herself. That note had been a symbol of her journey, a message that even when the world expected doubt or failure, perseverance and heart could create something extraordinary. It was a reminder that true talent is not just measured by skill, but by the ability to touch others and convey emotion in its purest form. As she continued to perform, teach, and inspire, she carried that lesson with her every day. She knew challenges would continue, and that not every audience would understand or appreciate her music. But she also knew that she had the strength, dedication, and heart to overcome obstacles and continue sharing her gift. Music was her language, her passion, and her way of making a difference in the world. In the quiet moments at the piano, she reflected on her journey. From the small room where she had practiced alone to the grand stages, filled with appreciative audiences, she had grown in ways she could never have imagined. She had learned that success was not just about recognition, but about the courage to pursue one's passion, the dedication to keep going, despite doubt, and the ability to connect with others through authenticity and heart. And so, she continued. Each note, each performance, each audience became another chapter in her story. She had learned that even one note could change everything, that perseverance could defy expectation, and that music had the power to reach hearts in ways nothing else could. Her journey was ongoing, filled with promise, passion, and the endless possibilities of the music she loved and the life she was determined to create, even after achieving recognition and performing on multiple stages. She felt there was still more to explore, more to learn, and more stories to tell through her music. The journey that had begun with a single note now felt like an ongoing adventure, filled with new challenges and opportunities. Each day brought something different, a chance to connect with new people, to share her music in ways she had never imagined, and to grow both as a musician and as a person. She received invitations from schools, community centers, and small concert halls to perform and share her experiences. With each performance, she noticed that people responded not just to the notes she played, but to the story behind them. The journey of a young musician who had faced doubt, isolation, and hardship, and had persevered through it all. Her performances became more than just music. They became a message of hope, dedication, and resilience. Traveling to new cities and towns for performances was both exciting and exhausting. She saw different faces, heard different languages, and experienced diverse audiences. Some listeners were young students, curious and eager to learn, while others were seasoned music enthusiasts, quietly observing every note. Despite the differences, she found a common thread. Music could touch everyone in ways words sometimes could not. She realized that no matter where she went, her music could create connections and inspire others. Between performances, she dedicated time to practice and explore new pieces. She experimented with different styles, blending classical compositions with modern influences, and allowed herself to improvise in ways she had never done before. Each experiment taught her something new, expanded her understanding, and enhanced her ability to express emotion through music. She discovered that true artistry came not just from skill, but from authenticity, creativity, and the courage to take risks. She also began mentoring young musicians who reminded her of herself at an earlier stage. Many of them faced similar challenges, limited resources, lack of guidance, and self-doubt. She shared her story, emphasizing that persistence and passion were often more important than formal training. She encouraged them to find their own voice, to embrace their mistakes as lessons, and to never let skepticism from others deter them. Seeing their progress brought her joy and reinforced the belief that music was a gift meant to be shared. Not all experiences were easy. Some audiences were indifferent. Some performances did not go as planned, and there were moments when she doubted herself. She sometimes felt the pressure of expectation and wondered if she could continue to meet it. But she learned to view these moments as opportunities rather than setbacks. Each challenge taught her resilience, patience, and humility. She remembered the long hours of practice, the moments when she had questioned herself and realized that every struggle had prepared her for these moments. The ability to keep going, to adapt, and to continue expressing herself was just as important as technical skill. She began to write her own compositions. Inspired by her experiences, emotions, and the people she met along the way, these original pieces allowed her to convey personal stories and connect with audiences in even deeper ways. When she performed her compositions, she noticed that listeners responded differently. They were curious, reflective, and emotionally engaged. Her music had become a dialogue, a bridge that allowed her to communicate directly with the hearts of those who listened. As her reputation grew, she started receiving invitations from larger venues and more prestigious events. Each opportunity brought excitement and nervousness. Performing on grand stages with thousands of people was a different experience, but it reinforced the lessons she had learned early in her journey. Focus on the music. Connect with the audience and let her heart guide every note. She discovered that while skill mattered, authenticity and emotion were what truly made a performance. Unforgettable, her journey also brought her closer to understanding herself. She became more aware of her strengths, her values, and her passion for sharing music. She recognized that her path had not been easy, but every challenge had shaped her into the musician and person she had become. She reflected on the power of persistence, the importance of believing in herself, and the impact that one person could have through dedication and heart. These lessons became the foundation for her future, guiding her in every decision she made, even in quiet moments. Away from the stage, she continued to practice and explore music. She played in small, empty rooms, allowing herself to experiment, make mistakes, and grow. She remembered the young girl who had started with a worn piano and no formal training, and she felt gratitude for the journey. Every note she played carried the weight of her experiences, the lessons learned, the stories she wanted to share with the world. She realized that her journey was more than just personal success. It was about inspiring others, showing that obstacles could be overcome, that dedication and passion could defy expectations. She understood that music was not just entertainment, it was a tool for connection, empathy, and expression. Through her performances, teaching, and mentoring, she continued to touch lives, creating moments that would be remembered and cherished as she planned her next performances, explored new compositions, and worked with young musicians. She felt a deep sense of purpose. The journey that had begun with a single note had grown into a life filled with music, connection, and meaningful impact.